Alex asked a question that kind of matches a question that I had. So maybe we can get back to a question that I had, because we talked about your English or your language learning journey, but as an English teacher, I'm kind of curious how that applies. So Alex asks a question. He says, which methods are worst for learning language? And my question was, what are the things that students should avoid doing that they often do? In other words, things that students spend a lot of time on that they should spend either no time on or less time on, right? And what should they do instead? And maybe just one thing. I know that you talked about before, you talked about the vocabulary thing that students, and I would agree with that students should avoid learning isolated words.
Right.
Don't learn a dictionary, because then, okay, great, you know the word. But then what? Right? How are you going to use it in a sentence now? Go ahead, try. I'm waiting, and you can't, because you just know maybe just that word defined in your own language, not particularly useful, right? If it's in context, if you know how to use it, much better. But are there any things that you've come across that you think, don't do that, just don't do that, and do something else instead?
I think that, well, I mean, honestly, that's the biggest one that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I must say that a lot of my students are from China. So I'm not sure if that's a Chinese sort of particular habit, or if that's something that applies to language learners from all around the world. But I think the other thing is to don't just do things that feel safe. And that's something that I have a big problem with. So let me give you an example then. So for me, if I'm like, one thing that I did to improve my Spanish was to read Harry Potter. I read some of the Harry Potter books in Spanish, and it's good.
How do you say Harry Potter in Spanish?
Harry Potter.
How do you say Voldemort in Spanish?
Voldemort. They don't change the name.
Do you have to? So you say it, and you have to say it in sort of a sexy way, because that's very romantic when you say it like that somehow.
It's presumably how Antonio Banderas would say it.
Mm-hmm.
I am Voldemort, and I am here to kill Harry Potter.
Why did you change the last part to English? You should say it in Spanish.
Soy Voldemort. Y estoy aquí para matar el Harry Potter.
Very nice. I like it. It makes me want to watch Harry Potter in Spanish.
And I said El Harry Potter, which probably isn't right. It probably should just
be Los Harry Potter,
right? Los Harry Potteros.
Yeah.
Un grupo de Harry Potter.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying, yeah, you were talking about feeling safe, right? So maybe we could give a few examples of that kind of behavior of just living in your safe, because I totally agree. I think it's a major issue, but maybe a few examples of things that are best, not necessarily avoided, but kept as 10-minute things here and there, right? What would be some examples of that?
I think honestly, like it's quite a hard question to answer, because everybody has their own things that they do, right? The things that they do that are sort of really safe to them. I think it's more a question of finding the things that make you feel very safe, but that aren't challenging. Maybe things that you've been doing for a long time, and finding a way to change that. How can you maybe get the same result? Let's say if it's, I don't know. I'll give you an example from me personally. So I recently realized that in my team, my company that I run, which is called Last Minute English, the rest of my team is Chinese, but they all speak really good English. So we've kind of got to the point where all of our conversations were in English. And then I found, I thought about that and I thought, okay, every time I'm in a rush, I'll send them a message and it's in English. And then gradually it went from being in a rush to being every time.
Yeah.
So it's become a very safe habit for me. I mean, it's not technically a language learning habit there,
Right.
but it's a safe habit and it's a missed opportunity. And so what I've done, I started this like last week. I've started writing every message that I send to my team in Chinese. And already I'm finding that, I'm picking up new words. I get to a sentence and I have to figure out one of the words. And so I have to go and look at it. And I'm a little bit embarrassed because what if the team
Shame
think
is
that,
powerful.
yeah,
Embarrassment
indeed.
is very powerful.
So I have to take a little bit more time, and also I have to think about what I'm writing a little bit more. I have to take more time to think, okay, is this, the right message? Should I say this in a different way? Whereas in English, because I'm a native English speaker, I just go, all right, brrr, send,
Right.
like that.
Yeah. I think that's a good example. What I tell, I mean, let me know if you agree or disagree, but what I tell people generally is, you're right. It's hard to find a specific example. One example, quite frankly, and I probably shouldn't say this, is watching a live stream. I mean, think,
Terrible,
right,
terrible thing.
really. I mean, for entertainment, for picking up tips and ideas, that's great. But if you really want to improve, don't say, oh, I watched a live stream today. Now my spoken English is going to be better. Those two things, that adds to your maybe knowledge base or how you approach the language, but doesn't actually do the work for you of making you better. And so what I generally tell people is, imagine you're on a hike, and your goal on the hike is to be slightly out of breath the whole time. If you're walking on a flat plane, you might as well just be walking on a road, and you're not really getting the benefits of what you would get if you're on a hike. Now, if you're climbing a cliff, then you're probably just going to say, I can't do that. That's crazy. I don't have the gear. I'm just not going to do that. But if you're on a slight uphill, and you just ask yourself, do I feel slightly out of breath here? Then you're probably getting that perfect balance. When you go on a hike, you want to get slightly winded because it's more of a workout. It's a little uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable. You're right up against the edge of your abilities, or at least you feel a little bit closer to that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
close to
and so
it.
that's but that's not a specific activity. That's a feeling that you have, and I think there's a similar feeling when you're trying to express yourself in English or when you're practicing your English. You feel slightly uncomfortable. If you're listening to something, you don't understand everything, and it's a little frustrating. You feel that feeling, but not overwhelmed, and that's exactly where you should live. And if you're there all the time, then that is going to keep moving forward, and you're going to actually make progress. If you do that thing and it gets easy, then the ground is flat again and you're just walking along. So just because that thing was difficult yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be difficult tomorrow. That's called progress. And so you're constantly changing the incline to make it a little more difficult, and that's how you improve in anything almost, but also for language learning.
You could also say that about in the gym running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
I mean,
What's a
literally.
treadmill?
Well, hold on, is that a different? Is that a joke or is that a different
I was just
American?
making a joke about me not exercising very often. So
Oh,
anyway.
I see. I get it. We're on the same page now. Or you like with another gym example, lifting weights.
Yeah.
If you go in and the first day you lift like the little 5 kilo ones, then like it might be hard at first, but if you stay there forever, then it's a waste of time.
The benefits don't. Yeah.
You want to be moving up
Yeah.
to something where it's still possible, but it's difficult. I think that's very good. I think the hiking example's an excellent one.
Yeah. Eventually you'll be curling Volvos. Well, that's great advice. That's good advice. So I hope I hope that answers people's questions who are thinking about, what they should be spending their time on. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. That would be great. Don't forget to subscribe, of course, and check out the courses in the links. Francis's courses are there. They are on sale, and also my courses are there. My courses are also on sale, but Francis's are at the top, so check those out. Make sure to check those out. They're great. They're amazing.